All right. Welcome to another edition of Buck What You Heard. My name is Gene. You can reach me at Buck What You Heard. You follow me, I'll follow you back. Again, I'm coming at you guys with another crazy off season. Just everything that's been happening has just been it's been monumental. We see a lot of players going to a lot of different teams. We're going to see. I think you're going to see a resurgence of the NFC South, but we'll talk about that a little bit. I'm joined today by my special guest, Dylan Mellor. He's a Twitter user, and what I like about this is I want to get people's opinions on what's going on. And we were in a chat, and I was like, "Hey, I'm doing a podcast. If you want to come on, feel free to come on, and I will make sure to get you on." And I got Dylan, man, and Dylan, we're talking about where your background a little bit. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. Kind of, embracing the quarantine times that we're all going through, making the best of it, but definitely still constantly checking the Twitter feed to see what's going on in the NFL.
You know what? I think we all are, especially, with the offseason the way it is, man. I mean, there are so many moves. Even you look at the NFC South as a microcosm of the whole NFL. Changes are, really coming about. And speaking of changes, I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on Jameis Winston and the moves that have been made, regarding Jameis Winston. Where, and as a fan, and we talked off camera before we got on. You're a lifelong Bucs fan, so what are your thoughts so far?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely, as you said, lifelong Bucs fan. My dad was actually in the Florida area in '76, so he kind of was, hey, this is my team now. So I've inherited the love for the game and the love of the Bucs from my dad. So yeah, lifelong Bucs fan. Also have two older brothers that went to Florida State. Were there about the same time Jameis was there. Got to know him. So James has been my favorite football player for since he has been in the limelight, since he's been to FSU, winning championships there, winning games there. And so it kind of was a dream come true for me having Jameis land at the Bucs. Pick number 1 back in 2015. I thought for sure he was going to be the longtime quarterback, retire a Buccaneer. That was my goal for him. So it definitely hurts seeing the Bucs kind of turn away from him, go a different direction. From a business standpoint, got to understand it a little bit. But I know that Jameis is going to bounce back from this. He's going to ball out wherever he's going to go. He's a special talent. You cannot deny the arm talent that he has, throwing 33 touchdowns. Over 5,000 yards, that doesn't happen by chance. That doesn't happen, just by luck. That takes some serious skill, and I no doubt that he's going to be successful where he ends up. Definitely excited to see where he's going to end up. And then in terms of my Bucs, as hard as it is, I guess if I had to pick one guy to replace, my favorite player would be Tom Brady. I guess if you had to look at it that way, the considered GOAT, that the quarterback who's definitely up there, greatest of all time. With some of those great names, so we'll see. I'm a little excited for the season, feeling a little different than I was before when I was thinking that it was going to be James at the helm. But I think we got some good pieces around right now that I think we can find some success with. Excuse me.
Man, this is what I appreciate about our fan base, especially somebody like yourself. Tom, you think about Jameis Winston and what Jameis Winston meant to you. And the fact that I've seen tweets where people are like wanting the Bucs to fail because, Winston's gone and, you bringing in Tom Brady. I'm good with the move. We'll see what he does on the field. If this is what Tampa thinks is going to take to get the Buccaneers into the Super Bowl, into playoff contention, into being even just being competitive in the NFC South, I'm good with the move. You kind of have to be. They're going all in. And we just kind of have to roll with that and see how they do.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely got to roll with it. It's one of those things. It's really out of our control. We don't have any say in what goes on out there. We can only hope for the best and hope that we do find those wins and ultimately make a long run. Give us some extra football games to watch at the end of the year.
Yeah, there we go, man. Because ultimately, I don't want to be talking about who we're going to draft. I don't want to talk about who we're going to be picking up free agency after the season's over. I want to talk about who we're playing in the playoffs. And I've been saying that. I think that's where, as a fan, that's where our minds need to be. And, for me, and I've been a huge Jameis Winston supporter, and I've lost listeners because I wouldn't trash him because of the interceptions when I can look at the whole game and I can, and not just put it all on Jameis, but put it as a team effort. So to me, I guess my mindset's a little bit different. I want to win games. I want to see this team win games. But I've had some very memorable thoughts on Jameis Winston as the quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you kind of for you, what are some of those things? I mean, what is the one standout moment that you have? Everybody's got a standout moment, or you would think that of Jameis Winston, in your time has just been watching him.
Yeah, I think that's something that Tampa has lacked for a long time is kind of that player that really loves the team and wants to give it all to the team, wants to be that guy for the team, wants to be that leader, that spoken and unspoken leader, kind of that guy that represents it. And I feel like Tampa has lacked that for a long time. I feel like they don't really ever have star players. Obviously now Brady is here, but we've never really kind of had those star players that have come to Tampa and wanted to really invest in the city, invest in the team, and kind of give that and have that heart and that will to win, which he does.
Yeah,
I feel like people have been saying that for some reason, and I've seen a lot of tweets from people saying that he's a loser, he loses football games, hasn't had a solid season in the NFL. This guy went 29-0 at Florida State. He didn't lose a game at Florida State until his that final game, fatal game against Oregon. He is a winner. He won in high school. He's a winner at the end of the day. NFL is always a different story. You don't expect a guy to come in here and go undefeated every year. That's nobody does that. So it's hard for me to sit here and say, hey, that agree with these people that are saying that. No, this guy came into the Bucs had the first pick in 2015 for a reason. They were the worst team in the league. They had the first pick.
Yep.
You can't expect one guy to come in here and automatically turn that around. It does happen sometimes, but you got to put some pieces in to kind of fill around and kind of take that burden off him. And I feel like that's something that the Bucs never really did with him. They never really, and I've seen multiple people say that, oh, what do you mean? We invested 3-4 linemen over the last couple of years. Oh, our offensive line is paid $41 million. That doesn't really mean anything. Big money signings don't, necessarily equivalent to success on the field. That happens all the time. Look at Todd Gurley's contract. Look at all these things that money doesn't always correlate to success on the field. So I feel like that's kind of a flawed statement that they're trying to make to say, hey, the Bucs were doing it. They weren't. They really weren't. Maybe they thought that they were. Maybe they thought some pieces were good. But it's evident even now that they're coming and saying, oh, now they're all in on Tom Brady. They're all in on investing to make sure that Brady's going to be protected, make sure that Brady's got the weapons to throw to, the defense to bail him out, keep him in the games. But to circle back around to Winston, it really is kind of just those post-game press conferences. He never made excuses. He never put the blame on anybody else. He took the blame. He was that guy for the team. He was that fall guy. He put that weight on his shoulders. He put that burden on his back. And I think that's something that's so rare, especially out of a rookie on to a 26-year-old guy. Like, that is so rare to have that in a team and in a player that young.
Yeah. So, and I'm going to circle back around to this here in a little bit, but what are your thoughts on the free agent moves the Bucs have made so far? I was happy with the Shaq Barrett. I think if you go back to some of my podcasts last year, I was excited to get Shaq Barrett in Tampa, and I think this guy has more than he's more than shown that he was worth that franchise tag.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that the fact of him having that ability to kind of learn from Von Miller, one of the premier defensive guys in the league, kind of hide behind him for a few years, learn from him, learn the intricacies of the game from him and where he's found success. I think that it makes sense why he came in and found so much success this year, kind of that breakout year. I think Todd Bowles is a great D coordinator. I thought that Mike Smith was a good D coordinator his first year, and then the second year was terrible too. But I have a lot of hope in Bowles' defense, and I think that he kind of elevates that scheme and that defense that they got going on, kind of elevates and plays to a lot of those guys' best attributes. And I think that's where kind of why Shaq Barrett came in, found some success. I'm happy that we have him back. I think that, and I've seen a lot of people say that, he's going to totally be a one-hit wonder, one season. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that
look who he played behind in Denver.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just crazy. And you know what? He didn't get a chance to show what he can do. And I think what makes this great is he was glad to be back in Tampa. And
Absolutely.
he wanted to, he wants to kind of finish this up. This defensive line, the front seven that they had last year, came into their own. I know we lost. You lose a Carl Nassib, and we don't know what's going to happen with Ndamukong Suh. But you've got your core with Vita Vea, you've got Levante David, you've got Devin White, you've got JPP and Shaq Barrett. Some of these players that build up this core, you can get guys to come in there and play roles. I would love to see a Kevin Minter come back to Tampa. I know he's a free agent right now. I don't know what's going to happen, but when Devin White went down, I thought he did an admirable job coming in, and those are depth pieces that can play a big part in the back end of the season, especially with injuries and stuff like that.
Absolutely. I'm pretty confident that I just saw something that they are re-signing Kevin Minter on a 1-year deal. So I definitely will be happy about that, because I
Wow.
agree.
Okay.
You need those pieces on that defense. You need those pieces on that offense. Kind of those guys like. And I think that maybe even Joe Haig, that if I'm pronouncing that correctly, that signing from the Colts, I think that he can kind of be that too. That kind of come in. Indianapolis has had a great offensive line. He kind of
Oh
could
my
be kind
God.
of a Shaq Barrett deal. Come in, he's good enough to play, but they already have some great guys. He comes in here, fits in our system, put him in a good spot to succeed. I think that could be a similar signing with that. I'm definitely kind of excited with that one. But yeah, Kevin Minter, I think that's a solid guy to have in there. You really need those pieces on the D to make sure, if Devin White, just like when he went down, he played solid. You need those guys that can kind of fill in for you, and kind of hope you don't miss a beat when they come in.
Yeah. I guess there are a couple other pieces that I'm going to be closely watching. I talked a little bit about Ronald Jones earlier, but I would love to see them bring somebody in. I don't think, and I just had his name, Peyton Barber. I don't think
Yep.
Peyton Barber comes back, even at a lesser deal. I think you would want to upgrade and
Yep.
go a different direction at the running back position. And I'm not taking anything away from what Peyton Barber did. He was an undrafted free agent. He came in and made the most of his opportunity. So he competed to get where he was. But I think at this point, if you're going all in, you're wanting to get to the playoffs, you're wanting to get to the Super Bowl, you need to upgrade at the running back position. I think that's going to do nothing but help your quarterback, whoever, being Tom Brady. You need those pieces like that.
Absolutely. I definitely think that, and I've seen a lot of talk recently. I know PFF, they're one of the main guys that they say that their RB position is kind of the most pointless position, the one you shouldn't invest in. And I understand that to a certain extent, because I think a lot of the running back position deals with how good your O-line is. There's those rare running backs like the Saquon Barkleys that can, make those bad O-lines look good.
I think the
But you
Titans,
got
the Titans, you got, and to your
exactly.
point, you got to look at what the Titans did, because I honestly believe with Ryan Tannehill, if you stop the run like the Bucs, what did the Bucs held the Titans to like 75 yards rushing? I think
Yep.
something to that effect. But other than that, I mean, the Titans running game has been on point. I mean, you saw that on into the playoffs. So,
Absolutely.
I question it. I think you can't go wrong having a good running back. I think it can do nothing
Yep.
but help your quarterback.
Absolutely. It can do nothing but kind of elevate the play of the offense and kind of give that offense that other dynamic that they can find success in. And a good running game opens up the passing game. A good passing game opens up the running game. You really need both.
Yeah.
It's rare to have a QB that can kind of, be that Pat Mahomes
Yeah.
and come in there and not really need that guy. Granted, I think that Pat Mahomes made that running back, the running back play a little bit better, because no defense was concerned about the run. They were concerned
Bro,
about what that
you
guy was going to do
can't
with the ball.
you can't account for him, and that's what makes him that special player, like a Lamar Jackson. I want to jump in the chat real quick. Frank G, what's going on? How you doing? Andy Finley from Scotland, what's going on? TC Baby One, W Thomas Corral, what's going on? This show, I want to make sure I get you guys I want to get into the chat a little bit, but I was my guest tonight. I do have Dylan on here with me. He's we started following each other on Twitter, and he's a fan, and that's what makes Buck What You Heard so fun, is because I want to hear from the fans. I want to be able to talk to people. He is a friend of the show, and you never know. In a couple of weeks, he may be on again. maybe on again this week. You just don't know. Whatever happens. But, again, this is what I want to try to do is make sure that, people are getting their voices heard. Frank G had mentioned that Mentor was re-signed, so you're absolutely correct on that. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but again, just with what Tampa's doing right now, what they're building right now, what do you see personally as a position that needs to be addressed immediately?
Yeah, I think that O-line is the biggest one. I think we need to shore up our outside spots, left tackle and right tackle. I think that Marpet, that signing was a great draft several years
most
ago.
definitely, most definitely.
I actually had a buddy that I played at high school with that went to Hobart as well and played with him there. So I was kind of excited. I was like, hey, I'm with it, and he comes in there and he's a mauler. I think that we need to shore up the left tackle, shore up the right tackle. Those are the two most important spots in my opinion. To kind of make sure that outside, those defensive ends,
it's funny you talk
freak athletes.
And you talk about Ali Marpet. I have a friend of mine. He's a reporter for Atlanta Falcons for Yahoo, and he sent me this message, a video message, and it was Ali Marpet throwing Danny Shelton around at the Senior Bowl, and I saw this. He said this is who the Atlanta Falcons are getting ready to draft, and he said just remember the name Ali Marpet. So, needless to say, when Tampa drafted Ali Marpet, I was on there texting him back, hey, thanks for the tip. This guy's amazing, and he has been. Just every position that they've had him play at, I think he's been a very resourceful player. And when you don't hear his name, you know that when you don't hear a player's name, especially on the offensive line, they're doing their thing.
Right, exactly. And that's kind of, it is it's not a glorious position. They kind of do the most work and they get none of the credit most of the time. So, I have a special place in my heart. I played football my entire life. I played it in college. I got a special place in my heart for, the old linemen because those guys, they're the unsung heroes. They go out there, they give it their all. A lot of times they're the nastiest guys on the field, and the nicest guys in the locker room, though. So it's kind of funny how that old line is really a different breed of person, and they definitely don't get the credit they deserve.
They never get the love they deserve. But it's interesting. I've had this conversation with a lot of other people. Do you feel like there's a drop off as far as talent with offensive linemen? Just because it's so hard to get one. You can't get them in free agency because they get re-signed or they get snapped up just like that. And I think it's one of those unsung positions. And when you have a quality player, that's kind of what you get. I look at Donovan Smith. Donovan Smith is a unique example of being in the right place at the right time, because when his contract came up, there's nobody better than him that you could go out and get. So you're stuck with bringing him back. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, we overpaid for Don. There was nobody else out there. There was just, you could risk it getting an offensive lineman in the draft, but you run the risk of getting a bust there. So better the devil you know than the devil you don't know. He's the offensive lineman. I think that if the right player came along, you could kind of move on from him. But what you're seeing right now, there's just not a lot of quality offensive linemen out there. I mean, in my opinion, I could be wrong here, but just from what I'm seeing, I don't see a lot of them moving places. I see them getting re-signed.
Yep, I see one name I've been seeing that keeps popping up for the Bucs could be Jason Peters. I think that could be a solid veteran guy if they're able to get him in. But again, Jason Peters is he's up there in age. He's at the twilight of his career. But that could be, a solidified guy that we know kind of what we're going to get with him. I think he could be a good one. And I think that the Bucs are in a sweet spot in the draft. I think that, there's a lot of good linemen to be had sometimes in that, that 13 through 16 range, right where the Bucs are. Look at the Cowboys years ago when everybody was hoping that they were going to draft Johnny Manziel, and then they wound up drafting Zach Martin. I think I want to say that was like pick 16 or something like that. Those guys are there. That's one of those picks. If we can get a Zach Martin on our team, one of those perennial Pro Bowl linemen that just find success and elevate the other line around them. That's what we really need.
And that's what
you those guys on the line.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what you want. And you want your offensive line to gel. You want to have your cornerstone like your Ali Marpets and then you want to kind of build around that, and you would be able to plug and play certain players. And I think the one thing that Tampa has missed over the years is depth at the offensive line position. So definitely something to keep your eye on. And when you're talking about going all in, you've got Tom Brady. You've got to keep him upright. You have to keep him upright. What you're taking away with Jameis Winston is athleticism. You have a guy that you have to keep him upright in order for him to get the ball down the field. So it's going to be more vital than ever to make sure that Tom Brady is protected, whether it's with the running game, the option of the running game, or just making sure that you have solid offensive line play.
Absolutely, and gone are the days. And I'm thinking back right now to this past season, game 1 against the 49ers. Jameis made Nick Bosa look silly. He
Filthy.
made the stud of
broke
Nick Bosa
broke both
silly.
his ankles.
Both ankles gone. Gone are those days are gone. So now we need O-line that's gonna protect Brady back there, and kind of Brady's 40. He's gonna be 43 when the season comes around. He's not gonna be running out of the pocket, avoiding these 300-pound guys that run 4.7s, 4.8s. He's not gonna be able to avoid those guys.
Yeah,
Jameis could, but Brady's not gonna be able to. So I think that's the biggest for the Bucs team we have right now. The biggest thing is gonna be to invest O-line. And I definitely would love to see Sue come back. I think that he kind of is a perfect pairing with Vita Vea. I think that's a dynamic duo there on the D line.
Yeah.
I was okay with the Nassib going away because I think he was that would have been too much money for us to give him.
Understood.
I think that we could have
it's kind of like it was with it's kind of like it was with Adam Humphries. You had Adam Humphries. You wanted this guy. Fans and coaches alike wanted him back, but the amount of money he was asking. I mean, you bring in a Rashard Perryman, who on the back end of the season played amazing. I mean, when he was the number one receiver, he played very well, and he had that great chemistry with the quarterback. And there's actually a question in the chat that I wanted. Lane Johnston, longtime listener, is Perryman coming back, or if not, who's the number 3 option? Who do you put in there?
Yeah, so I think Perriman did a great job into the season to kind of get that paycheck. So I don't think that he would. I don't think it makes sense for him to come back just because we're not going to be able to offer him the amount of money that he can get from another team. So I think for him, I say, hey, go get that paycheck, go get that money because that doesn't come around that often. Go get it. I would love to see a guy. I saw that Emmanuel Sanders was rumored to us. He chose the Saints again. He got a deal for I think $8 million a year. That's too much money. We can't afford to give our third receiver $8 million.
I mean, exactly. I you know what? I'm jealous of Mickey Loomis, of the Saints having Mickey Loomis, but I hate that guy only because he's in our division. Every time they're in salary cap hell, every freaking single time they're in salary cap hell, they make a move like this and they bring somebody in like this every single time. I don't know how they are able to manipulate the cap the way they do, but they make it happen. So
make it happen. It's like how much money do they really have? Because it doesn't seem to be the same amount of money.
They probably got some money in a mattress somewhere that's not accounted for, and they just kind of slide it under the door or something like that. But it drives me nuts every single year. I keep hearing about the New Orleans Saints are in salary cap hell and they're not going to be able to do anything, and Mickey Loomis pulls off a move like this. So
something like that.
Yeah. So
that's to kind of finish the thought on the receiver though, I think if we could get a guy that's willing to come in and maybe play for a little less, to kind of come in there and kind of elevate that room. Maybe if Robbie Anderson was willing to take a massive pay cut, that'd be a guy I wouldn't mind having as wide receiver 3. But I think that one thing that our lovely GM has done is that Godwin pick in the 3rd round. So I think that this year is a year that the receiver class is so deep that I'd be okay with taking a 3rd or 4th round pick. We just got an extra 4th compensatory pick. If we want to use one of those to draft one of these young wideouts, I think that would be an ideal situation too to kind of add another guy in the mix. We got 2 of the best receivers in the league. I personally think that Godwin is the best receiver in the league. I think that that's going to be not many people are probably going to share that same thought outside of Bucs fans, but I truly do.
And to be honest,
for years to come.
And to your point, I don't even think Godwin's come into his own. I don't even think he's close to coming into his own. I mean, he's a physical wide receiver who will bust you in your mouth. He blocks downfield. I would even say that from his rookie season till now, his route running has improved like 500 fold. Just what he's doing
exponentially.
Yeah, and I'm not taking anything away from Mike Evans, but just how hungry Chris Godwin is when you see him. I mean, it's just it's night and day, and he's going to get every ball. Every ball is his, and he's just going to get it. And I've got friends that are Saints fans, and I'm sure they're going to watch this. And I keep hearing about crybaby Michael Thomas with his whiny ass, always talking about can't guard Mike, but you always see his old whiny ass on here complaining about something. You don't ever hear there. I don't know how many games. I can count like 7 games that Chris Godwin was out just egregiously interfered with. He may have said something to the ref, but he went on and played the game. Oh, whiny pants. You got to hear about the referees. You got to hear about this. And there's one thing I don't like about Michael Thomas. He's a fucking whiner. And that's all you hear from him are complaints about something, whether it's the NFL, whether it's, I don't know, Twitter, whether it's Facebook. He's always whining about something. So just one of those guys that, yeah, he's a good player, but I think our wide receiver core is better than New Orleans is.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to look at, too, the amount of targets that Michael Thomas was getting compared to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and just the amount of, Mike Thomas's yards came on a lot of short routes. Evans and Godwin's, their yards came on deep routes, over the middle of the field, deep post, deep corner routes. I played receiver. So I played receiver in college. I understand it. And that's another thing that I love so much about Godwin is that you see Godwin come in to the inside the box, and he's blocking. He's blocking just like an O-lineman. I'm sorry, but you're not catching me inside the line blocking those 295, 300-pound D linemen coming at you full speed. You're not catching me doing that as a receiver. So
so
that's a rare
so I'm going to ask you, as a wide receiver, you got to watch Deshaun Jackson when he was here. You've gotten to watch Mike Evans. You've gotten to watch, Chris Godwin. How clean are these routes they're running? I have to ask you this question. As a wide receiver, as somebody who knows game film, I'm sure that you had to watch hours of game film. I want to ask you point blank, how clean is the route running in Tampa?
So I would say I agree with you 100% that Godwin, he is definitely not even come into his own, which is scary for his potential. I've seen drastic improvements in his route running. I think that he's definitely getting up there really, really good, really, really elite. I do think that Mike Thomas is a decent route runner for the most part. I think that Evans is kind of – I would say Evans is an 85% good route runner.
Yeah.
I'll say that, and I say that because I think about 15% of the time some of his cuts are rounded, some of his cuts are not quite what he needs to be, and I've even seen multiple Winston interceptions that have come from Mike Evans rounding off a route and stuff like that. D-Jax, when he was here, I love Deshaun Jackson as an athlete. I think that he's a superior skill set, but because of that, he is inherently lazy with his routes. If he there was countless deep balls that he was giving up on for no apparent reason that looked like they could have even been touchdowns, but he kind of gives up on those routes. So that's kind of and I saw a lot of people too that kind of discredit Jameis because he didn't get didn't find much success with Deshaun Jackson. But I don't know. I think that was just as much on Deshaun as it was on Jameis. I think that kind of wasn't just that the best of a pairing. I think that you see Jameis with Mike Godwin, you see him with Adam Humphries, and that's something too that I think that something that I have admired from Brady, his career, is kind of his ability to elevate the play around him with the receivers, and I think that's something that
there's
he has
accountability
aligned with. Yes, his accountability. I mean, you look at a guy like Deion Branch. He had Deion Branch looking like a Pro Bowl receiver for years, and then Branch goes to the Seahawks and is terrible.
Trash,
so it's kind of one of those
that.
things, and I see that's what I've been seeing in Jameis. He's kind of has been elevating the receiver play around them. Now, not to discredit Mike, not to discredit Chris, but Jameis is the reason that Godwin is where he is today.
Even Perryman. That's absolutely. when you looked at Perryman. I followed Perryman. I have a friend who's a Ravens fan. And he was just like blowing my texts up when they drafted Perryman. And I was teasing him because Perryman looked like he's about 90 years old with the dreads he had. So I was always making the jokes. But I actually watched him, and I just didn't feel like he fit in the NFL. I didn't think he was that good. And with the injuries, and and finally, they cut ties with him and he went to Cleveland, and I got to see Perriman in Cleveland. I'm like, wow, he's looking a lot better. And then when you see what he did when he came to Tampa, the first part of the season, I wanted to launch his ass into the sun because of some of the drop passes that he got. But on the back end of the season, he got that chemistry with the quarterback, and they were able to make those moves, and he was able to improve at that point. So again, I think whatever team gets Perriman, it has to be the right system for him in order for him to succeed. So I don't know. I just when you look at that, it's just crazy. Frank G had a question. Do you consider Jameis Winston a first overall draft bust along with Russell, Leaf, etc.? I'm going to answer that. I'm going to jump on that real quick. For the next decade, and I promise you this, I don't care who the quarterback is, for the next decade, you're going to have to mention Jameis Winston's name because he's your number one passer. Any rookie records that are substantial, any actual passing records for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers organization, Jameis Winston has them. He's got them. Touchdowns, passing, interceptions. That honor goes to Vinny Testaverde. When you talk about passing percentage or interception percentage, you're looking at Vinny Testaverde. Then you're looking at Trent Dilfer. And I will say this. Just what Jameis Winston was able to accomplish as far as individual quarterback statistics, you have to mention his name. Whether you love him, you hate him, you think he's trash, you think he's garbage, you have to mention his name as one of the top quarterbacks in Buccaneer history. Now, when somebody's going to come back to me and say, oh, but look at the history of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you can't blame Jameis Winston for the poor decision-making that the organization has had going all the way back to Doug Williams, after Doug Williams left to Jameis Winston. Don't try to blame that on Jameis Winston. He's gone in and played the way he's supposed to play, and he's done what he's supposed to do. So far from it, would I consider Jameis Winston a draft bust? I would even go so far as to say he's our only 5,000-yard quarterback. He's the only one. So again, some of the decision making, Jameis Winston was a blessing and a curse. There were times where I know that, he has this route, they're running this route, he could have pulled back and not done it. But again, it is what it is. When I look at his overall body of work as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, I don't have a problem with it. I just don't. And that's just where I'm at as a fan, and just taking a step back and looking at the team overall collectively, looking at the players who've come in, and just what they've done. So Jameis Winston is a football player. Jameis Winston will be mentioned for a long time, regardless of whether he's gone or he comes back or whatever happens. Jameis Winston will be mentioned. But go ahead.
Absolutely, I agree. I mean, I think that you hit the nail on the head there. You cannot have the word bust and the word greatest quarterback for a team ever in the same sentence. It doesn't work. You can't fault Jameis for coming into a bad organization in terms of quarterback play for years and years before. You can't fault Jameis for that. You can only kind of appreciate the greatness and the value that he brought to be the greatest Buccaneer quarterback of all time, to set those records, to have his name entrenched in the record books for years to come. I think it's gonna take that quarterback to come in that we're gonna draft and eventually be the first quarterback that we re-sign after the rookie contract to kind of break those records from Jameis. So I absolutely know you cannot label Jameis a bust, even though all the media scrutiny that's happening right now and saying that he may not even have a team that's going to take him now. That's BS in my opinion, because he is much better than Andy Dalton, and he's better than Tannehill. So it's kind of like one of those things. Like,
yeah, it's crazy. I have to say this: if Jameis Winston's rehabbing from this meniscus and his thumb injury, he couldn't pass a physical. I mean, isn't that part of it? Is that
be part of it? Mixed with
just
going on too.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about everything that Jameis Winston with the LASIK, with the thumb injury, rehabbing the thumb injury, rehabbing the meniscus, he couldn't pass a physical. I mean, right now, and maybe I'm wrong in this. And if somebody out there can clarify this, that could be why he's not signed with anybody. I would think.
I definitely think that could be a part of it, mixed with the whole coronavirus thing that we're going through as a nation right now, as a world. All gotta. Ooh, that was highlight. I love it. I love that.
Got to support Tampa,
Um,
buddy. Got to support
gotta
Tampa.
support it.
Even I'm not there. Got to support him. But go ahead.
Got to. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, definitely. And in terms of even talking about Mike Thomas and the whining that you were alluding to, that
Crybaby.
Jameis had hundreds of opportunities to whine about things, and he never did. He always put the team on his back. He was the scapegoat. He kind of did it, and I feel bad for the guy in that sense, because all the love and the heart and just the greatness that he brought to the city of Tampa Bay, and I feel like Tampa Bay really did not appreciate it. The kind of the statement of, "I wish you could tell us we were in the good times when we were in them." I think that we're gonna kind of be going through that as a fan base for some years to come, regardless of
Yeah.
what happens with Brady here.
So, just as us, you put your GM hat on here for a minute. Is this one of those times right now? Are we drafting a quarterback? Is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers drafting a quarterback this year in the draft, or is this something that you just get a good backup, you get a quality backup for Tom Brady, and you look at the draft next year? I would think, if you've got a 2-year contract for Tom Brady, now would be the ideal time to draft a quarterback, because you need somebody who's going to be able to come in and sit behind Tom Brady. And one person that comes to mind is Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, and this never really gets mentioned, Patrick Mahomes was able to come in and sit behind Alex Smith.
Yep.
And you forgot about him. And I can tell you, unless you were a Kansas City Chiefs fan, unless you were part of the Chiefs kingdom, you forgot about Patrick Mahomes that whole year. And then, here comes this guy just out of nowhere. It wasn't out of nowhere. This guy's sitting back, taking mental reps. He's basically, with the offensive coordinator. He's in the offensive coordinator's ear, head coach, and he's soaking all this in. When his time comes, boom, there you go. So, and again, this is one of the things that I feel like is a plus for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If you do have a Tom Brady, you want to get that guy who's going to be able to step in behind Tom Brady and do what he needs to do. So if you can get a rookie that can get 2 years behind Tom Brady, hey, you're putting yourself in a very good position moving into the time when Tom Brady moves on and that quarterback is ready to step in and take the reins.
Absolutely, and we saw that with Pat Mahomes. We saw it with Aaron Rodgers, and to be honest with you, we saw it with Brady too at the beginning of his career. He was not drafted to be the starter in that team.
No, he
had
wasn't.
The opportunity to learn, and yeah, so I definitely agree. I am a little sick to my stomach at the thought of us having to draft another quarterback, because I thought for sure that was going to be something that we were not going to have to do for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that in terms of a Bucs fan, that definitely does excite me to kind of think of that, having that opportunity. I think that we definitely should look to the draft. I think that, and the fact that we do have Brady, I think that could possibly allow us to kind of wait until maybe third, maybe fourth round, and maybe even fifth round to kind of draft one of those guys, take a flyer, and hope that it works out. Hope that he can kind of learn. I would be a fan of maybe even Jalen Hurts whenever he would be needed to take.
Do you think he's even going to be available?
That is the question too. That I don't think he will be, because I think that there's a lot of teams that need a quarterback. There's a lot of teams that need to bring those guys in. So he may not be available. I definitely don't want to waste one of our picks that I think can kind of contribute right away. I think that if we draft well, potentially maybe our first, our second, maybe even our third round pick can kind of come in and contribute right away. So I would hope to not have to burn one of those picks on a developmental guy. But sometimes, if we're talking longevity and talking the future of the organization, then I'm definitely okay with using one of those picks to get a quality guy. So yeah, I think that they definitely should. If not, I could understand if they didn't this year and look to next year. But I think that I think definitely having the opportunity to kind of have a young rookie QB come in and learn from Brady for 2 years would definitely be ideal. I wish that Jameis could have had that experience, because that who knows how that could have gone in but that's also a whole other conversation
Yeah.
of what if. So
Yeah, but just thinking, I'm just trying to think. In 3 years, you're gonna have Tom Brady's not gonna be here, okay?
yep.
And that's something that you kind of have to look long game. I understand we're looking right now. Everybody, we're all in. You're bringing some of these players in, and you're trying to build this team up with Tom Brady and that offense. You're trying to rebuild some of the pieces that you're missing on that defensive line and potentially upgrade. But one thing that always sticks in my head is how many quarterbacks the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had after winning the Super Bowl, after Brad Johnson left. How many quarterbacks the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have gone through up to this point? All I'm saying is it would be logical to get a quality quarterback that you could sit down. And I realize that we're going all in. I get that. I totally get it. But you still need somebody that's going to lead this team. So, and somebody had mentioned, hold on. Somebody said, doesn't signing Tom Brady change your draft philosophy? I would have to say you get the best player on the board. If the best player on the board happens to be a quarterback and you can sit him and have him learn from the greatest quarterback of all times, I can't see where you can go wrong with that. I mean, because your Father Time is undefeated. And I've seen players a la Brent Grimes who played at a high level, and then the next year you see him, this guy is like trash. And he can't stay on the field, he can't stay healthy, so on and so on and so on. That's all I'm saying is, I mean, you really need to look at the long game now. The more time that you have a quarterback that can sit behind a Tom Brady and learn from him, the better off you are when it's his time to take the reins. That's kind of my thinking on it.
Absolutely, and that is the logical mindset. Really the only question is the front office logical?
There you go. Tom Coral was asking a question for you. Who would you prefer as far as running back? When in with everybody that's available right now. I mean, I know you're a FSU guy. What do you think about Devonta Freeman?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking all along too. Hey, what a better pairing for Jameis Winston than his old college running back, or somebody that has had rapport with, been close with. I'm confident that they're probably so close today. I was saying that'd be a great fit. I've been a fan of Devonta Freeman. I know that he's had some trouble the last couple seasons. Staying healthy, finding success, and whatnot. I would be very happy having him come in. I was glad that the Bucs did not bring in Gurley, even though when I did realize that Gurley was only 25, I was like, okay, maybe that is a different story, but not worth that much money to kind of bring in a running back to really not even be the I don't think we need that main focal guy. I think I really do like Ronald Jones. I think that we need somebody that can complement him. I think that apart from Derrick Henry, it's kind of rare for a team to really have that one feature back that kind of take the lump.
Those days are gone.
Right, exactly. Obviously, you still got Zeke Elliott, but even Zeke Elliott has complementary backs around him to take some of that weight off.
Right.
So I don't necessarily want to think that we need to spend big money on a running back. I would be happy if Devontae wanted to come in and be, hey, I'll come in for pretty cheap, sign a pretty team-friendly deal, come in there, kind of complement Ronald Jones. Been seeing a lot of talks about Deion Lewis, obviously. For the right price, I would not mind that either. I could totally see him coming in maybe for the minimum contract to come play in, ring chase perhaps. Obviously, as you said, I'm an FSU fan. I think that Cam Akers has a lot of potential to be good in the NFL. I think that he's one of those guys that had a really, really horrid O-line in college and still showed that he is good and showed that he has a lot of potential. I think
speaking of Cam Akers, do you see his talents translating to the NFL? Is this a guy that, with a year or two under his belt behind a good starting quarterback that's already existing, is he a guy that could come in and you could get him once it's his time, he could come in and start?
Yeah, I think so. I really do think so. I think that, as I was mentioning about the battle line, he has heart. He has those playmaking abilities. I've seen a lot of people call him, the poor man's Dalvin Cook. I don't necessarily think that's true. I think that Dalvin Cook is a superior athlete, but I think that Cam Akers, maybe not necessarily in the same conversation at the moment. But I think that Cam Akers has kind of shown his stuff with what he can do with bad pieces around him. I think that that'd be a perfect situation for him to come in, not necessarily have all the eyes on him because you got Brady in that backfield
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
You got the shared load with Ronald Jones. So I think that'd be an ideal fit. I think that there's a couple other young running backs. I think that there's something to be said, and there's definitely some value in a veteran running back coming in and kind of lead that room, but also the ability to kind of have fresh legs, young legs come in that room and kind of, competition breeds success. So bringing in some more competition in that room will only, find more success for everybody involved.
Yeah. Andy Finley was saying we're going all in this season, so trade your first pick from the next year. Again, that's a possibility. I mean, everything's up in the air with Jason Light. Jason Light drafts in a vacuum. It doesn't matter what anybody's saying around him. This is what he's focused on. I think he depends a lot more on his scouts. I mean, when Robinson went to the Titans, there were some years where I just kind of questioned Jason Light and some of the things that he's done. But I think, these past 3 seasons, he's made some, he's made some really solid moves that, you really can't question. I mean, I know people were furious about Vita Vea and not bringing in a Derwin James, but I think Vita Vea has really shown when healthy what he's capable of doing. If I had to say, and let me ask you this question here, who are your 3 players right now for the Bucs that you're looking forward to watching in this upcoming season?
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely excited to watch Godwin. I think that Godwin is going to have. I think that Godwin and Jameis had great rapport and great success. I think that Godwin is going to find more success than Evans will in this offense now that Brady's here, because I think that Brady is a big time thrower to the slot man, and Godwin has had a lot of success in that position. So I think that definitely excited to watch Godwin play. I'm excited to continue to watch our young corners, our young DBs. I think that everybody, Sean Murphy-Bunting, Carlton Davis, and obviously all the other young guys in that room. Jamel Dean has been, had a lot of success this past season on even on limited reps. Started to get more toward as the year went on. I'm definitely excited to kind of watch that group of young guys. Would definitely love to kind of see a veteran presence come in and kind of help those guys out, help mentor them. Not a Brent Grimes type. I think that kind of some more veteran leadership in there. And then I think the third guy is Devin White, and even honestly, I'm going to say Devin White and Levante David too. I think that now that Brady's here, I think that Levante David is going to get a lot more credit, even now that Kuechly's out of the NFC South. I think that Levante David is going to kind of get some more credit that he deserves. I think that he's one of the top linebackers in the game, and he's kind of just been overlooked. He's vastly underrated, and just excited to kind of see Devin White's continued development and see how well he can do this season.
You know what? You kind of stole my thunder. Number 1 for me is Vita Vea. I want to see what Vita Vea does. The second would be Shaq Barrett. I want to see what Shaq Barrett does as an encore to what he did last year. And of course, Devin White. Devin White, when I was looking at the draft class last year, when I'm going back and looking at available game film, when you look at college players, you look for behaviors. And there were some defensive linemen that I was like, you know what? It would be so good if the Bucs had this guy playing next to Vita Vea. And I thought that, you address the trenches. You continue to address the trenches. Good example is a team like the Ravens. The Ravens, you never hear about a trash defensive line from the Ravens. They may be a step down, but I can promise you their defensive line is always rock solid every single year. So, because they address it. They continuously address that line because they realize the importance of it. So, when I'm looking at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and I'm looking at all these players that are available, and I keep hearing that Devin White's going to be that guy. And I looked at Devin White, I'm like, I guess so. And then Quan Alexander, boom, he's gone. And I'm like, here we go. So, I'm thinking about this and I'm like, okay. So when the draft came and went, I was a little frustrated that they didn't address the trenches like I thought they would. However, they get Devin White. So I'm looking at Devin White because I'm like, okay, I see he's a little bit cheaper, number 1. He's an upgrade based on his upside. He can cover better than Quan could. He can tackle better than Quan could. And he continuously makes plays through 4 quarters. It's not just, oh, we see him in the first quarter. We may see him in the third quarter. We definitely won't see him in the fourth quarter. And to that point, you saw how Quan kind of got exposed in the Super Bowl. But back to what I was saying, when you look at what Devin White ended up doing for his rookie season, the body of work, and how underrated he was because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were not winning games. That's a big part of why I can't wait for this season. I think, barring any injuries, that you're going to see a guy who's going to be 10 times better than what you saw the year before, which is scary. And so you've got Devin White. Vita Vea has a full season, NFL season under his belt now, regarding injuries and stuff. We know his rookie season, he ran into some problems and he came on strong. And then watching him last year run down running backs and tight ends, and he's, playing in the position that he is, I'm like, what can this guy do next? And that's kind of where I'm like, man, I'm excited to see what he's going to do. And then, again, we talk about Shaq Barrett and what Shaq Barrett came in and did, being able to play behind future Hall of Famers like he has been in Denver. I can't wait to see just how he upgrades his game and he elevates his game moving forward. So I'm excited about this. I think that, what the defense has been able to do. Andy Finley mentioned Nunez Roches, another guy that quietly came in, and here's another guy that when he's had his opportunities to come in, he's played well. These are depth pieces that you need in order to have a winning product to put on the field. So this defense, what they're slowly cooking up, with this defense, I'm looking forward to it.
Definitely, you hit the nail on the head too, and obviously Nunez Roches, Nacho as they call him.
Yeah.
You need those depth pieces. Those are the really the true unsung heroes of that defense, because you can't expect that D line. My best friend is a D lineman that I played with in college. 6'3", about 300 pounds. He runs like a 4.9 40, and you need those guys that can come in and take those guys when they need a breath, when they need that play to break. You need those guys that can kind of come in there and kind of match that level of play, and so that it's really not.
And the cool thing is he comes in and he makes splash plays, so yep. he makes an impact when he's on the field, and those are the kind of depth pieces that you want to have. And I do want to say this: there was this ugly rumor about him with the dog last year, and that rumor was dispelled, but you didn't hear the media talking about where we're apologizing or anything like that. He sent a cease and desist letter, his lawyer did, to a lot of these advocates, these animal advocates out there, because he didn't do anything wrong. And we never heard anything about it. But I'm going to say, I've stood by, and you can go check my Twitter feed from the beginning, that we needed to get all the facts before you come at somebody. And this guy experienced death threats. I mean, this guy had to move from where he lived because people were putting these bullshit articles out there. And then when it's proven that it's not true, you don't hear from them. They're just going, they crawl back in their hole, to cancel the next person that comes along. So I'm glad he's back. The Bucs know he's innocent, and that's why they were able to bring him back. And ultimately, just as a player, as a human being, as a dog lover, I'm glad he's back. And, I want to thank the Bucs for that.
Yeah, and listen, the media is such a beautifully terrible thing. It's beautiful and terrible simultaneously. There's
blessing and a curse.
Accountability. It's a blessing and a curse. There's no accountability for people that want to put, whatever story, the clickbait stories they put out there. Obviously, Jameis has been a victim of that. Those negative Jameis Winston stories sell. Those stories sell, and then when those stories, it's easy for a person to kind of hide behind a pen and paper, putting those notes out there, and then when it comes out that it's not true, there's no accountability. Hey, what? Just like I said, I'm just going to go back in my hole, whatever. Not concerned with the cause and effect of really what they just did, and the ramifications of how dangerous it really is to kind of mess with somebody's credibility and popularity, and even how who they are as a person. Their life. Yeah.
All right. So going back through the chat here. So is there anybody out here right now that you would like to see Tampa get? I mean, we talked about Freeman a little bit. With the holes that the Bucs have to fill, is there anybody that you see that would be a good fit for what either Todd Bowles or what Bruce Arians is doing on the offensive side of the ball? Is there anybody out there that just kind of stands out and you're like, man, it would be cool to have them here? I think they would fit right in and be a difference maker.
Yeah, I think two guys that come to mind are Tony Jefferson and Jason Peters. I think that tackle needs some help on that O-line.
Most
an
definitely.
Established veteran that can come in, kind of show. I feel like we still got some young guys. Marpet is still a young O-lineman.
Yeah,
kind
absolutely.
of come in, bring that veteran guy, and that has been good for a substantial amount of time. Kind of come in, mentor some of those guys, and also be able to contribute and play, keep our O-line playing at a high level. I've seen a lot of stuff. I think Tony Jefferson is a great player. I think that's somebody that we really need, that veteran leadership on the back end there. At that safety position, that's something that we've drafted. I feel like we've drafted and kind of looked at a lot of guys at that safety spot, but it's kind of been like a revolving door to a certain extent. A lot of guys in and out of there. So I think that kind of having a veteran leadership on that back end would do wonders for our young defense. Bringing somebody in on the O-line. More investments in the O-line, because that's been one of our weakest spots, and I'm sure people are going to listen to this and say, oh, but PFF rated you guys as one of the highest O-lines. Stats only tell half the story sometimes. You really have to watch the game, evaluate those guys, and really see. And honestly, I think that Jameis, exactly, tape does not lie. And honestly, I think that Jameis bailed out that O-line multiple times of stuff that they should have been penalized for. But stat sheet doesn't always show the full story. It's a lot different, and especially too, being a fan of the game and loving the game of football. I'm watching everything. I'm watching the O-line. I'm watching the receivers. I'm watching the routes, the jab steps, all the little intricate details that somebody that really didn't play football or doesn't, that casual fan doesn't really understand. I think I
think this is ideal, man. You were talking about rounding off your routes. And I'm going to kind of go back to the offense here. We talk about, this is one of the strengths of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. When you talk about rounding off a route, can you go into a little bit more detail about that? I would love for anybody, the casual listener that doesn't quite see that or doesn't quite understand that. When you're running a route, I know with Jameis Winston always threw somebody open. He threw to an area that a wide receiver is supposed to be. And there have been times where I've seen where Mike Evans, you're supposed to be running in between the sideline and the hash. That's where your route is, and then you kind of cut it off. Explain a little bit more about rounding off your routes.
Yeah, so route running, really, and I think that people kind of, for me, I feel like people kind of have that idea of, they're running a route, they're going to have the steps. It's going to be the same every single time. It's not. The route's going to have to change based on where the DB aligns, where that player aligns on you, what defensive coverage they're in. So it's really important that between the rapport between the quarterback and the receiver, that those routes are run crisp as possible, because that quarterback, just like you said, Jameis throws them open. He's not waiting till you're open to throw it. He's throwing it anticipating that you're going to get open. It's an anticipation position. He's anticipating that you're going to get there, you're going to beat that position. So if you're rounding up your route, not having a tight cut, letting that DB have a lane to kind of undercut you on your route, or get in between you and the quarterback to intercept that ball. It really hurts the opportunity on that play, because the rounding of the route opens up the area for a DB to come in, and it kind of throws off the timing of the quarterback being able to throw you open. So it's vital for a receiver to do the absolute best that he can to kind of make sure his route is crisp, and then obviously catch the ball.
Yeah. So I don't know if you're on Facebook or not, but and I definitely, and people know me, I don't really talk football on Facebook because they're a bunch of maniacs, but that's for another show. Michael Clayton, the ex-Tampa Bay Buccaneer, did a whole thing about the Tampa Bay Buccaneer wide receivers, and he talked about routes. He talked specifically ad nauseum about routes that are run, why people aren't open, and he went in depth. And I think it's really insightful what you're talking about, because you pretty much mirrored what he's saying. and how important that is. I know for me, if I'm running a go route and I'm the intended receiver, and my guy on the other side is supposed to run, I don't know, he's supposed to run a hook, and he doesn't sell it, then everybody knows, hey, this is the intended receiver over here, because this guy is just like jogging down the field, and we know that the ball's not going to him. Is that a fair assessment? And have you seen that with the Bucs at times?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is a complete fair assessment. It's kind of, looking at an offense, if they kind of have a weak spot, or a receiver that's, kind of jogging on a route, it's a dead giveaway. It's a sign that, hey, you don't necessarily have to worry about that guy. Obviously there are some routes where, it's kind of made to look like, hey, I'm gonna be blocking for a second and then going. But for the most part, it really is important for kind of everybody to kind of give it their all. Playing receiver. We called them, we called our go routes a lot of times for the love of the game, because you're not always going to get the ball, but you still got to run your tail off and get there to kind of sell it. And so for the love of the game, it's kind of sprinting your tail off even when you're not going to be rewarded. So it's important to kind of have all those pieces flowing.
Yeah. Now, was this a 9? Would you call this a 9 route, or I mean, is that what you would call it? Is a go route? Would you consider it a 9 route?
Yeah, a 9 route. There's multiple terms. We called them when I was in college. We called them more routes because they were must outside release. To kind of make sure that you're spreading the field, getting out there and not interfering with any of the other routes that are happening over the middle of the field. But it's vitally important for kind of everybody to be on the same page and to kind of give it your all every time, because I saw many times with Deshaun Jackson that ball was there. It was placed well, but he kind of gives up at the end of the route, thinking he's not going to get to it or not going to get it, and kind of ruins that opportunity.
Yeah, I know for us it was called Madonna because she was so hot, and that's when you call Madonna, that day that's a go route right there. And right. I played offense maybe 3 games, and then I got lit up by a safety, and that ended I started playing defense after that, but I got lit up. I mean, decleated. I mean, you see cleats and sky in the air and stars, and telling the coach, Mom, I don't want to go to school tomorrow or something. Yeah, that's.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I understand
bro.
it.
So
I understand that completely.
So that I'm as far as toughness goes, I'm good, man. I'm not gonna take them. I said I'm not gonna deal with that. But I think it's cool just how the game has stayed the same. It's evolved, but a lot of it stayed the same. So that's what I really appreciate. And I loved, bro. I've got to have you in again. I really enjoyed talking with you. I mean, just the insight that you have, and I don't know. Do you have as far as I know outside of the Bucs, do you do a lot more as far as football goes? I mean, analyzing or what do you as far as your take on the game? How do you analyze everything?
Yeah, so I am actually just finished playing college football not too long ago. I'm only 23. I graduated from college back last year.
Where'd you play?
In football terms, I played at Dartmouth up in the middle of nowhere, New Hampshire.
Yeah, I know Dartmouth.
Played receiver. It was an invaluable experience. All 4 years being able to kind of do that and kind of get my feet wet with football and obviously get a great education as well. It was all important things for me. But when I watch football now, I have a newfound love for the game, because something that I really didn't get to partake in for the last 4 years, other than the season, the 4 seasons before this, was my Saturdays and my Sundays were always booked. I really didn't have time to watch games and at least not watch them live. Now that I kind of have that that newfound time on the weekends that I'm not playing football myself, I really get that opportunity to kind of sit on my couch and do nothing but watch football. So when I'm watching, I'm looking, especially when I'm watching Bucs games. I'm watching the defense. I'm watching what coverage they're in. If I were kind of putting myself in the OC shoes, all right, what play would I run right here if they're doing this, or what would be open right now? I actually went to the Kyler Murray when he was at Oklahoma. Oklahoma played West Virginia, and it was about a 4-hour drive for me. I went with a couple of my buddies, and it was that was an electric, high-scoring game. But I was in there, I was in the stands, and I was like, all right, hey, they're in too high. It's gonna be a perfect time for a post route right in the middle. And then it happened literally the next play. And I had some guy that I never met before standing right next to me. He's like, how did you know that from playing video games? And I was like, no, actually, it's been from studying defenses for the last 10 years of my life that I was able to see that. And he's like, oh, okay, I'm sorry about that.
Somebody was asking, Tom Corral, he was asking, what is your opinion about Bruce Arians and how will he adjust his offense? If I could jump in here before you answer, I think with Tom Brady, it gives you a little bit more flexibility. And I talked about this, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong here. With Tom Brady and the success that he's had and his ability to read an offense or read a defense, I think that gives gives the offensive coordinator a little bit more flexibility. He has the option to run different plays. I'm willing to bet my life that they're going to let him audible out of stuff if he sees something that he doesn't like at the line of scrimmage. But what are your thoughts on what do you think Bruce Arians, how far do you think this will go? Do you think that there will be some play calling options in here, or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, so I definitely think that, and that's something too that I have respected Bruce Arians for, but now I kind of am, it's kind of hurting his stock in my eyes. It's kind of his reluctance to mold the offense to a certain player. It's kind of been, hey, this is my offense. Let's do it. Let's roll with it. Let's go with it. You know, you got to play to it. Let's do it. And he's kind of done it with Jameis. I heard multiple times people saying that he really was telling Jameis, don't worry about the interceptions. Let's go out there. You're a gunslinger. Let's throw the ball. Let's get those yards. Let's score those points. He didn't want to compete in close games. He wanted to blow people out. He wanted to put up points, put up yards. And subsequently, I mean, when you're throwing 40, 50 times a game, and interceptions are going to happen. It makes sense. So that's a whole another story. But I completely see Arians kind of changing his mind on that whole not changing the offense, because he's going to have to let Brady kind of come in and kind of have his say. I'm sure Bruce will have his say, and I'm sure that is something that they've already talked about how they're going to do it, because obviously they had to kind of present a pretty good situation to Brady for him to want to come in here. But I think too, and I was ecstatic with the hiring of Arians last season. I was like, I think that this is the perfect thing for Jameis to come in here, kind of that QB whisperer. Hopefully, help him elevate his game. And I think Jameis elevated his game offensively, apart from the interceptions. He
5,000 yards,
up the yards,
30 touchdowns.
That does not happen by chance. That does not.
What are we at? Like 8 quarterbacks? No, actually, would have 8 or 9 quarterbacks that have thrown for 5K in the history of the game.
Yeah, and we had one of them and chose to let him go away. So that part hurts. I was ecstatic having him come in, but now, to be honest with you, I'm a little bit concerned that Arians is more concerned with being able to retire and kind of get that Lombardi trophy, kind of get that crowning jewel, and go off into the sunset, rather than kind of having that perennial powerhouse, or that consistent powerhouse, at least that I was feeling as if we were on the way towards being.
It's interesting you say that. I believe with the coaching staff that Arians has in place, I believe that Tampa we'll have some, unless they blow everything up and start over from scratch. I think you've got some really good coaches in Tampa. And I know there are a lot of coaches, and I think that everything kind of fell into place in the back end of the season, and you saw the importance of a lot of these coaches. And I think now I think it's just going to be even better this year, So, I'm good with that. Somebody else was asking about reading defenses, and I know that this is probably a podcast within itself. For you, playing at Dartmouth, you played a lot of. I'm sure that you've played ranked teams, and you've seen defenses and the speed of the game compared to your normal opponents. How long did it? And is that something that is natural, or is that something that's learned when you talk about going out on the field and reading defenses? Because you may play a team that's 3-4 1 week, and the next team is hybrid. Then you may run into a 4-3. So, what are your just for you? Was it just a lot of study, or is it just natural to see, okay, this is how they're lining up. They've got a single high safety here. What helped you, or what can you recommend? And what can you recommend to people that are wanting to get more into the game and, looking at game film? Because I look at all 22, and it's taken me, I've like asked former players and stuff like that to help me. And, it's taken me a long time. I've read a couple of books, and it's just taken me, I would say about 5-6 years to get to where I'm, comfortable. If I say something on this podcast, I'm 100% confident in what I'm saying.
Yeah, so definitely. I mean, it's something that I think that it's both of kind of what you're saying. It's studying, it's film study, being able to kind of diagnose and identify what they're throwing at you, but it's also through learned experience and knowing, seeing the little details, the different hip movements, the different line where he's lining up, where's he facing, where's the linebacker lined up, where's the safety lined up, is there only one safety over top? There's certain kind of telltale signs as to what the defense is going to be running. But yeah, and I'll say something too. It might be a shock. I do think that actually video games and playing Madden and playing NCAA football as a young kid, kind of without me even realizing, I was kind of learning plays. And I was learning offensive plays that worked well against defensive plays, and then being able to cross-reference what I was learning in the video games at a young age, actually being able to go out on the field, and then ultimately get into high school and get into college and kind of learning that there is so much more that you can do. There's so much more you can study, so much more you can watch to kind of give yourself an edge. And yeah, each week typically is different. So you kind of gotta look at it from a week to week basis. That's obviously easier when you're a player. Being able to kind of have that game film, study that game film, so you know what you're going to be up against next week. But as a casual fan, I would urge somebody that really wants to learn how to read defenses or even learn how to read offenses. Offenses have tells of what they're going to do sometimes too. It's really just kind of learning and being able to find out what the play is, watch what they do, and then kind of cross-reference it to another play of the same one. You can even do it from team to team or stuff like that, and just kind of find those telltale signs. Find where if it's going to be a cover two. Look where the safeties are lined up. Look where the linebackers lined up, and you'll start to kind of pick it up as you watch more and kind of just be a student of the game. And honestly, for me, it's easy because I love the game of football.
Yeah.
It has given me so much in my life. It is it's formed friendships that will be lifelong friendships for me.
You got one right here, buddy.
To kind of absolutely, and I appreciate that, and I'm so glad and so honored to be a part of this, and I definitely want to be someone that contributes all the time because I got a lot to say.
Well, let me, and you talk about it as a former player, who is the toughest defender you've ever gone up against? And maybe we may not know the name, but just for you, when you look at your college career, who was the toughest guy that you went up against, and it just like, man, you're like, I don't want to see this guy again.
All right, so I'll be honest. So I had one when I was in high school. We had a 7-on-7 camp, and I actually played against Joe Hayden's little brother. And he was at Friendship Collegiate, and Joe Hayden was actually there that day during that 7-on-7, and that was tough. For me, that was tough because they didn't only put Hayden's younger brother on me; they put one of their safeties, so they were double covering me. But he was just such a superior athlete to whatever everybody else was on the field. So it was intimidating to say the least because you just knew that guy was a baller out there. He had the name, he had the family genes, and then in college, actually, my teammate at Dartmouth. Was up in practice. I always got better against him in practice. His name's Isaiah Swan. He's actually a senior. He just finished his senior season. He's actually has a legit shot to make it in the league. So he's definitely a name for if you like small school guys, definitely a name to keep a lookout for. But he reminds me a lot of Stephon Gilmore.
Oh wow,
that guy that he's gonna cover you. He honestly, if you look at him, you don't really think that he's gonna be that great. I remember him coming in freshman year. I was like, just another roster filler. And then he came in and he was as a freshman dominating the senior wideouts and all that kind of stuff. So he's a name to look out for. He definitely elevated our receiver room while I was there, making all our top guys even better. But he's kind of one of those guys that really just gets the game. He understands it. He can read you. You're not gonna get him on a double move. He's not gonna jump on anything. He's patient. He's disciplined. And honestly, those are some of the traits that I think that some of the best DBs have. That patience, that desire to win and competitiveness that will kind of even if you're backed up against the wall, you're still going to be able to.
I ran a lot of bleachers because I was hungry to try to get that Oski and I paid the price on many occasions. I've got beat on double moves like you wouldn't believe. It beat like a drum, but I always went back to it and bit off of it. So again,
Absolutely.
so when I see those DBs that are out there and hey, they hey, they're solid. Like you think about, players like Darrelle Revis, just the players that don't bite off those. They're instinctive and they know what they need to do. I mean, those are the guys. I love defense. If I had to say on either side of the ball, just watching, I love defense. I just do.
Yep.
However, because it's a chess game against your wide receiver and your offensive coordinator, and defenders are at a disadvantage because they don't know where the play is going, or they may think they do, but they really don't. It's just my favorite position, and I've always appreciated that. And just talking to somebody who's played at a higher level than the majority of us have ever gotten to. I mean, it's appreciated that you can share that with me and a lot of the people that are listening today.
Absolutely, and I think obviously I'm biased towards receivers, but I think that DB is probably the hardest position to play because I know that I've had a lot of troubles. If I ever go out there and line up against any of the receivers that are on my team, I was always struggling to keep up with them. So
it's greatly appreciated. Well, hey, if you do me a favor, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you, Dylan, because I want to bring you back next week. If you're willing to come back on again, I want to get you back on next week. I mean, it's just so insightful. In this time we're kind of self-quarantined and there's not a whole lot to do. I'd like to come back on again next Saturday or something like that, get you on and just kind of talk a little bit more if that may be something you might be interested in doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, you guys, you can find me. I actually just put out, a little three picture, little paragraph of how I was feeling about the Bucs and Jameis. You can find me on Twitter. It's my name, Dylan Mellor. I have not been a huge Twitter user myself. I've always been a Twitter checker, I would say. But as of recent, I've been trying to.
You've been drawn into it, brother. You've been drawn into it, whether you like it or not.
Exactly, and I would definitely be happy to continue to contribute because I had a lot of fun doing this, and I'm always down to talk Bucs and talk football. So
yeah,
it's fun.
Yeah, and again, man, in this time of uncertainty right now, I think we need platforms like this. We need people to have the ability to get their mind off of the everyday struggles of life and just be able to talk about stuff like that. And this is why I say, thank you for coming on. I know that there are a lot of other things that you could be doing, but here you are with me and the people that are listening. So I really appreciate that.
Absolutely, and I know us Bucs fans appreciate having you to listen to and kind of put all our thoughts. I'm sure a lot of us have similar thoughts. Obviously, a lot of us have differing thoughts, but especially during this time, I often say that the reason that I'm so close with my football buddies or even my school buddies is because there's no greater bond than mutual suffering. So kind of as a world right now, we're suffering together. So we might as well come together. Find those good things, find those positives, what we're going through, and kind of just trudge on as human beings.
Yeah, all right. That's what I'm talking about. Well, before I let you go, as I mentioned earlier, I've got this thing that I call the hot seat, and so I've got 10 questions. Let me get my timer out here, and you get a minute on these 10 questions, and see how you do, bro. I mean, just you got a high football IQ, so I know that this won't be a challenge for you. All right, so I'm going to ask the first question, and I'll start the timer.
Sounds good.
All right. The question number 1, Tom Brady will get Tampa to the playoffs. Buy or sell?
Buy.
The Cleveland Browns will make it to the playoffs. Buy or sell?
I'm going to go buy this year.
The collective bargaining agreement made it better for players. Buy or sell?
Sell.
The NFC South will return to the dominant division. Buy or sell?
Buy.
The Las Vegas Raiders will be contenders in 2020. Buy or sell?
Sell.
The XFL will continue to get better. Buy or sell?
Buy. I went to an XFL game. It was pretty fun.
Jameis Winston will be a starter by the end of 2020. Buy or sell?
Double buy.
The Kansas City Chiefs will return to the Super Bowl this year, 2020. Buy or sell?
Buy.
The Tennessee Titans have improved their team from 2019. Buy or sell?
Sell.
And the last question, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will win a Super Bowl. Buy or sell?
Buy.
All right. So we got through those questions. I went ahead because I was talking so slow It was a minute too, but you would have gotten it had I been talking faster. So you get it. I'm going to give it to you this time. Next week, the questions may be a little bit harder. I'm still waiting on somebody to get me with the hot seat. Nobody's been able to get me yet. So, this is one of those things. Oh, iPeter747 is asking for your Twitter handle one more time.
Yeah, it's at Dylan Mellor. It's just my name, DYLAN MELLOR.
All right, that's what I'm talking about. Perfect. All right, so it looks like, man, this was a great show. Went over by 20 minutes, but I love talking football, and I love talking with people that, you're not one of those people who, because your guy is not here, you're upset and you want the team to fail. You are a genuine fan, a long-suffering fan. If you've been a fan of the Buccaneers between 2003 and now, you are a true hardcore fan, long-suffering, so on and so on. And again, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Shooter in the Stash. I don't know. Have you ever seen Shooter in the Stash? The animator jerks. He's basically said this is better than most of your horrible content because you're on here, basically. So,
hey, well, I guess I'll have to continue to come back and help you out. That sounds good.
Yeah, you really got to help me out here because, man, I tell you what, Shooter in the Stash is a tough audience, and I don't really care for his work either, but it is what it is.
Hey, it is what it is. To each his own. To each his own.
There we go. And I'm going to give a roll call here. Kwame Richardson, Frank G, new listener, Rarely Even, long-time listener. Andy Finley, great friend of mine. W. Thomas Corral, thank you so much. Callie Buck, let's see, Randy, Rarely Even. Who am I missing? TC Baby 1, long-time listener. Gary Buff, thank you so much for being on. Lane Johnston, Shooter in the Stash, I guess. OG Smoke, and again, if I missed you guys, I'm sorry, but thank you so much for contributing to the chat. The chat is always fun, and again, like we'll do this on Saturdays. Self quarantine and everything. I would love to give people, we see if we can get some more people on here, not just you, but maybe you can help me with answering some of these questions. Man, what you know about football and the experiences that you've had on a higher level is always appreciated. And again, I can't thank you enough for, taking that leap of faith and getting on here and listening to my ravings. You are truly appreciated.
Absolutely, man. And anytime, I would love to come back, whenever you need me. Obviously, being fresh out of college football, I got all this new free time on my hands. So what better to do than talk about football, especially, when we're being quarantined here and self-isolating. What else we got to do? Let's talk football.
That's right, man. And we'll see if we can get about 4 or 5 of us on here and have a round table or something. That would be a lot of fun. So, again, thank you so much, Dylan. Dylan will be on next Saturday. We're going to do this again about this time. I think this is a lot of fun. And if you're a new listener, please subscribe. Hit that like button. We will be talking football. It may not be the Bucs. It may be just the NFL. It may be free agency. Who knows? But again, I thought this was fun. It's very enlightening. Learning a little bit about wide receiver routes and some of the fundamentals of football. So thank you so much. And we do final thoughts here on the show. So let me get your final thoughts. It could be world events. It could be football. It could be anything. Just your final thoughts.
Yeah, man. I think, there's no better time right now to kind of, evaluate what's going on in the world and all this stuff. We're all suffering. We're all coming through it. Really just embrace your loved ones, love your loved ones. Never let an I love you go unreturned with your family. Really love those that are around you. Enjoy the time that you have right now because time flies. Time stops for no one. So
that's right.
Make the best of it. We'll kind of get through this all together and find success with everything that we do. But love those loved ones and just do whatever makes you happy.
Yeah. You know what? You're 100% right, man. I don't think there's anything I can really say to top that. But we're out right now, man. And again, check us out next Saturday. I'll have Dylan back on here again, man. And we're gonna make this a regular thing, man. And I appreciate you coming on. But that's pretty much it for us, man. And just look for us next week. Thank you so much. You guys have a good